welcome. And welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. One of his advocacy, remarkable dreams are built with the project. No other than Mr. Neo Dore.
That was so well said. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Neo. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Where do I start? Yeah, name is Neo. Um, I reside in Florida. I've been building the project for 6 years. It's been a very long, arduous journey, and I have so much to share. I My story isn't one of rags to riches. It's not like my family was depraved and I come from this poor background and all that. So it's not that kind of sob story to all that. But I have always been starving for more, you know. And the project was born out of at the time of my life when I lost my friend and I had so much other things going on. And Yeah, I'm ready to get into it. But remarkable, the word there is very important choice in not just of the overall team of what we're building and what we're trying to do, but just everything else. I would tie everything else back to it as we go forward.
Go for it. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Neo. And today, let's talk about the importance of nobody talks about this part of building business. Can you tell about this topic?
I think the best place to start is a couple months ago, I was recommended a book by MJ DeMarco. It's called The Millionaire Fastlane. And I know there's a lot of self-help books out there, and there's a lot of sensationalized and or misinformation in general. But I've had a good time reading the book, and it ties a lot into some of the things I'll be talking about. The so like I said, the author is MJ DeMarco. He's doing a retelling of his story, and it's very emotionally heart tugging story. He he starts a limousine business just before a limousine website for selling leads, just before the boom of the internet, or the internet bubble. And he starts that. He loses the business at some point, even though he's making hundreds of dollars. He buys the business back and then loses it again, and it's an incredible story. So I'll go into more about that, but there are unique things he points out throughout the entire story, and he calls them the pillars, the pillars of the fast lane, and there's six of them. Um, some of them might strike a chord with whoever's listening more than the other, perhaps even with you more than the other. One of the pillars is control, and control here means you have to own your own financial vehicle. You don't rely on any any government and or boss or job. And even though this is a point that's kind of like it's something we may have heard, especially today, many times before, he does take a more unique approach to expressing or being explicate what it is that looks like. So, building systems of control, like a business, a product, a platform, and being able to have that foundation where you you can extend control beyond just the typical 9 to 5 where you're limited in what is possible. It talks about entry, that's the second pillar, where you're solving real problems is very important, and you want to be able to provide a, a solution to a problem. This is this ties into the project in that I believe we live in a world of dreams, right? Like the fact that this podcast exists, it was your dream to make this happen. And through your own will, effort, you have continued to do so and very well. And there are people out there who, like you, like myself, have dreams. The difference is that they never take that first step. Somehow you've made it here, and somehow I'm here, and the project exists, and there's so many things that's to say and has been gained from that. But there's nothing more painful than that a dream that withers away because people never take that first step. And so, when I say believe in the world of dreams, everything around you was once a dream, from the, the road sign to the devices we're recording this on. There's someone thought about that. Someone envisioned the world where if this exists, this will solve a problem and to make life exceptionally easier for everyone, and people perhaps would pay for it, and they did. And so, for that reason, I believe that not only is it a need for people to uphold their dream, but those dreams potentially, if executed well, could become a remarkable business. Um, One of the things MJ DeMarco talks about in his story is need. And the need aspect of these pillars is wealth comes from from when you're providing value to a majority that needs it. And when you have a majority, when you look at the highest grossing companies that you can think of, the, they are that because they are providing a huge solution to a huge portion of the planet. And you can jump him at any point if anything I say, it's like you want to bounce off that. So just feel free. By the way, um, one of the other things MJ talks about is time, and this it's kind of hard because decoupling what you do from the time from your time as a person is very hard. And I know people define success differently, but I personally define success as when your passive the passive income you can bring is more than your expense, than your living expense. And so decoupling your yourself from the time it takes to do anything. It's something that can be very tricky for most people. And in the book, it's a problem he encounters early on. He's scaling, he's getting on his website, he's getting all these leads, he's selling them, he's making money, but he's realizing as he's making all this money that he's still having to exhaust a lot of his time to make the business run. And in fact, it doesn't run without him actually not being there. And so it's a pillar he talks about, and it's a phase any business, it's a stage phase any business eventually will come to where the people have to figure out, okay, this is how much the amount of time we're spending doing a certain task doesn't reasonably make sense to be worth our time to do the task for how much our time is worth. You know, so there's that. And then the fifth pillar it talks about is scale. And the scale aspect of things, I mean, today there are many business models and scaling I know when GPT came out, it was one of the companies that immediately had huge adoption and had just insane acceleration in terms of scale. Not just not to dozens, but to millions of people. So there's that. And the more the more I don't the more you can scale any, or the more you understand the best model will be beneficial to how you want to scale your business, the better it is. And you know, if you're serving a very niche market and you want to scale to local, global, international, that is one of the pillars he had to also go through and figure out. And for most people, if they stick to if they are running any similar thing, stick to it long enough, it's also an obstacle they'll come across and have to figure out how to scale. So there was that. Um, Lastly, he did talk about the magnitude of the business. Like that's one thing to bring money, but it's another thing to have impact. And you know how products are priced and how much you earn is one thing, but being able to actually leave some kind of cultural shift, if possible, if that's how you want, if that's what you're gonna call it, and deeply affect people in a way. And that ties into, in a way, branding. And branding is a game of association. And if you talk of some of the huge brands, people mention Nike and Apple and all that, and those are well branded companies because at the mention of their name, people associate that word with a certain thought and feeling. And that's when you have magnitude successfully. You can, you've, you've impacted that market so deeply that you have this almost ethereal, everlasting effect on how your service, product, whatever else is perceived and used. So there's that. It's just
Mr. Neo, you've likely faced fears as an entrepreneur. How do you navigate fear as a business leader, and why do you think it's rarely discussed?
I did face a lot of fears. Um, I would say the biggest fear was at times the biggest fear comes from the people you love the most, not even the risk, because people perceive risk differently. Some people are more risk averse than others. But I'll tell you a quick story, Lucas. I- If you can answer me this, who is the most important person in your life today?
Hmm. today for myself.
Yes.
Mm, well, my family,
Yeah, but person. Like, is that your grandfather? Is that your mom? Is that your dad?
my wife.
Your wife? So, chances are that your wife believes in what you're doing, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's something that is very delightful, something that is is just it's very pleasurable. It's a desired thing, and that is good. It should be that way. However, for a lot of people pursuing a dream, trying to execute, start something, and in my case, what became my biggest fear was failure, but not just any kind of failure. And the story goes like this. I was raised by my grandparents, right? I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandfather, he is a scientist. He is one of the men I respect the most, if not the only man I respect to the extent I've ever respected anybody. I love him. And a time came early on when I was working hard on the project, and it's began to affect my ability to perform in school because it was taking a lot of my time. And so I made the hard decision to take a break from school. And my grandfather at the time, he would do this thing where, if there was some child that was he felt was of concern for whatever reason, or there was any family matter, he would have a family meeting. So where, you know, all the elders, let's say, in the family are gathered and to discuss your problem. So we had this gathering, and primarily the topic was to discuss his concern that I was about to drop out of school. And my grandfather, like I said, love him, respect him. He is. I can't think of a world where he has supported me all my life and has I can't even find the words to use to describe how much of a amazing man he is. However, in this very instance, these words I'm about to tell you would come from this very man, and it would, in that moment, infuse a fear in me that was different from anything I thought I was experiencing before. My grandfather told me that he said, Neo, in society, we hear stories of different people. We hear stories of the likes of Bill Gates, of the Mark Zuckerbergs, the Jeff Bezos, unique people that have shifted the perspectives in the world and has caused cultural shifts like no other. And sometimes it's romanticized, probably too often, how they dropped out of school. And the problem is we don't get to see the rest of their story in terms of most people know they dropped out of school to become successful. Most people may not know their background of where they came from, sometimes from money, oftentimes from money, some kind of funding, some kind of leverage that the average person may not have. He said, "You, my son, if you were special, we would have known about it a long time ago. You're not special, and I'm concerned that what you're trying to do will destroy your life. And he said those words to me, and in in that moment, I knew that. Well, first of all, in I was in shock, and I to hear those kind of words from the person you love and respect the most is the most heart wrenching thing that at that time I'd ever heard. And it, the reason I asked you in the beginning of this, if who do you love the most right now, and you said your partner, is because the best way to understand is if your partner said similar words to you about whatever goal, in dream, or whatever else you're pursuing. I will say this: my gr- my grandfather, my parents, and such, they were justified to be concerned. At the time, I had nothing to prove. I had nothing to show for what I was doing. However, that would change in the years to come, and it did. But now this this fear of going back to such a position is something that scares me. So I push myself as much as I can to continue. And I mean that would be the the best answer to your question. I know it might be a bit long winded, but just it's a
Indeed, Mr. Neo. Beautifully, beautifully articulated. And as a remarkable dreams are building with the projects, what are your short term and long term goals?
short term goals. I mean, short term goals would be, well, actually, let me start long term because I think that's more interesting. So, long term goals, I want to employ one of the pillars we talked about, and I want to kind of step back a bit more from the project in terms of how hands on I am. So, I want to be still involved, but I want the business to operate without me at the capacity I am involved now. So, I want to gets more hands on deck. We have staff right now and stuff, but like MJ DeMarco says, to really achieve true scale, you have to derive some equation that evolves that where the cog, the machine, can perform without your entire involvement. So long term, that's what I want. Um, short term, I want to get more into content creation. y- it's part of why I'm on this podcast. I want to put my face more out there. I want to talk to more people, and I want to encourage people to start their dreams. And one of the ways I'm going to be pursuing that is just by making content about the people we've served so far at the project, and talking about their story then versus now, what's happening and such. And yeah, so short term that, and long term the other one. That's what I'll say. It is. I don't know if your question was pertaining to that or is it more personal. So
Well, good luck to your goals, Mr. Neo, and hoping and looking forward for more success, whatever where goals where you are pertaining to. So, can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
So the book that influenced my journey, like I said, Millionaire Fast Lane, MJ DeMarco. Another one is I actually have it here, The Mafia Manager. Now, the title might concern you. However, The Mafia Manager is a very um, well written tale about how to network. And in fact, how networking is employed in the, well, I say the underworld aspect of society for people to kind of climb the ranks and ascertain what they want. So, MJ DeMarco, great book, talks about the pillars of business, a man that lost everything, gained it again, and lost it again, only to eventually gain it back. The Mafia Manager, that talks about how to network and how is is done in the underworld, the aspects of society you don't see, and how what people go to reach the echelons of society.
Thank you for that recommendation, Mr. Neo. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well.
Okay.
Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101 Love Letters in third season, and my movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. Neo, if you could warn new entrepreneurs about one rarely discussed pitfall of building a business, what would it be and how can they prepare for it?
I would say the most concerning pitfall I've seen is that most people think that they need a first of all they think they need a lot of money to start, and or they think they need more than it actually takes them to start. I mean, depending on the nature of the business, of course, but more often than not, the business can start for you can get the I guess this is where tech succeeds very well. People go to market with MVPs. So MVP being a less optimal version of the product. And oftentimes, and because of that, tech products are very to move very fast and reach market very fast and get user data and fix product and then ship and stuff like that. Um, I would say the most concerning thing and pitfall is thinking you need a lot of money to start. You usually need, if you need money at all, it's usually less than you think. You can probably find creative ways to get around it. And um, the other thing would be self self doubt, self doubt. And for the self doubt part, I would say this: you get confident from a repeated process, and to get better you need to start. So I would encourage anyone that ever hears this watching, um, get started, and it's only through starting that you will be able to get better and finish and learn. And even though that sounds obvious, it's just people never start. So um, yeah.
Thank you for that empowering answer, Mr. Neo Dore. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy or any projects that you're doing right now?
So most of my time is spent on the project. It's basically all I do all day. And what the project does is we help dreamers like yourself. We help dreamers or people who are inspired, interested in pursuing a business of sorts, whatever it is. We help them research to find out if the business is practical, brand, give you the branding tools you need to distinguish yourself in the market, launch. So we help you get to market, but if it's a physical product and or it's a software or website, we help you get to market and everything in between. So that's that's where I'm spending a lot of my time right now. And you can find us at www.wearetheproject.com. And yeah, so you can book a call, and it's not a sales call. It's we just hear your idea out, and we tell you what your next best options are. And you might not even be the best fit for us, depending on what stage you are. So whatever the case is, you're gonna find out, and we keep it honest and let you know.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Neo Dore because if you support him, for sure, more and more and more empowering projects to come. So, Mr. Neo, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.